All right. You were at like the pro day and everything today, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta know. How did Phil look as tight end?
Dude, not bad. He didn't. He dropped fewer passes than Malcolm Epps did. And he, I swear to God, he looked fine. I mean, he looked like a guy. He's like not a great athlete. I mean, he's got the size and everything. I think he would. I don't know. He's like not an NFL tight end, but like,
No. Okay.
like I expect that. It's
1 to 100. CFL tight end Phil Jerkovic.
I don't know that. Like honestly, like I wouldn't count it out. Like I have no idea what the CFL is like, but I mean like 40%, 45%, I guess. I don't know.
If he like really wants to keep playing football, like they'll probably be glad to have him because they always like between like their international player draft and like the guys they reach out to who don't make NFL teams, it looks like they're always like trying to just bring in more players just because obviously their best ones are going to leave for the NFL, even though it
Yeah.
doesn't happen that often. But that's
Yeah,
really
like
funny.
I don't know. I figured he'll sign somewhere. Like he might play some spring football. I don't know. Like who really knows? I kind of respect. Like part of me's like, Phil, come on, let's like move on with our life's work. But the other part of me is like, this. I kind of respect him like sticking to it. Like I don't know. There's a part of the insanity that I respect.
I definitely respect the commitment to move to tight end because I like when that news broke, I literally thought it was a joke. I was like, "There's no way! Like this is like something I would have written in the summer of like worst case scenario." I love the one QB sneak he had as a tight end.
Yeah. Dude, they were playing these in the indoor facility, like while they were doing positional drills, they had like highlight tapes for every player. And I was like, what the fuck are they gonna do for Phil? Like what there were like, a few there was like a touchdown run against Wofford and like a couple touchdown passes against Cincinnati, like the
Yeah,
Virginia Tech, like the first play. But I was like, damn, they better put that sneak up there. That would have been sweet.
that was what Notre Dame was the sneak.
No, it was at home. I remember that. It might have been Louisville or
No, it
maybe
was later in the season.
was it Boston College or Florida State or something like that?
I think it was Florida State. I think you're right on that because oh god, I was in person for that one. That one stunk. Um,
Yeah.
Anyway, we definitely congratulate Phil Dracovic for being a modern day Slash. He's just paying more like homage to Steelers history. He's
Yeah.
an ex Cordell Stewart.
He was saying today that I was like shocked that he wanted to talk to us at all. But he like spoke to us after he like worked out, and I think he said that he not Cordell Stewart, but there were like guys he said that he had talked to, who had like gone from quarterback to tight end, like made position switches, and he was like trying to see what was up with them. So
Who was the former Kansas State quarterback that did that? It was like
not
2012.
it wasn't Colin. I don't think it was it Colin Klein?
It might have been.
He was like about to win a Heisman. Like I don't think he would have done that.
I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure it was Colin Klein.
That's crazy, dude.
Yes,
I wanted him to. Yeah,
I do remember that. He was awesome, but he was asked to work out as a tight end at the combine despite saying he wanted to remain a quarterback. And is now which is the crazy part about Colin Klein is that he got hired away from his alma mater to go to A&M, which I think is fucking crazy.
Yeah, that is kind of fucked up. Like
it is fucked up.
First down, goes to the sidelines, has a man wide open. It's tipped. MJ Devonshire got face. He's going to take it to the end zone.
He loves those moments. It reminds me of last year in the Garden against St. John. And guys just stepped up. Blake hits a what the hell 3. We're like, what are you doing? And he's done that all year.
Klicka out to Bizzario. It's over. The Pitt Panthers have upset Wisconsin.
Anybody if he hits his field goal. Up and got it. Sauls does it again.
Anyway, that's a Remembering Some Guys cold open. If you couldn't tell, it's me. I'm your host, Zach Kaminsky. Welcome back to Simplified Podcast. I'm joined by new guest, friend of the show, Stephen Thompson from Inside the Panthers. How are we doing tonight, Stephen?
I'm doing great. My calves are real sore from standing around for 6 hours at Pitt's Pro Day today, but other than that, I feel great. I'm happy to be on.
Hell yeah, dude. So I know we opened up talking about Phil because it's funny too, but like overall, like were there any players that really stood out at Pitt's Pro Day, like who had a really good performance today?
Yeah, I think the top of that list is really AJ Woods, a guy who didn't get invited to the combine, but I think when I watched him, he was always super reliable. You think about those three corners they had starting last year:
Hmm.
Marquez, MJ, and AJ. AJ was the one who ended up like getting targeted the most, but he was also the one who ended up defending the most passes, and he got a bunch of picks. And like he's a real solid. Like when you turn on the film, like he looks good, and then he's a really good athlete. Like the guy can run. He's strong. I don't have in front of me how many bench press reps he did, but he like looked impressive on the bench. Obviously, he's got great speed. I think AJ Woods was the one who really like raised his stock. He's been to a couple of like pre-draft like scouting things like the Hula Bowl and the East West Shrine Bowl. People have said good things about him there. Obviously Bub Means looked great, but he did most of his work at the combine. I think Shane
Hmm.
Simon is a guy I'm really high on. I've been high on him since he came to Pitt, but I think he showed some athleticism. And obviously he's a guy who I think is a little bit like Servassier Dennis in that you know, I think he'll really shine when NFL teams get to like talk to him, when they get to, see what he knows about how to play defense and just his intelligence, his football IQ. But flash some athleticism today that I think is really going to help him as well.
Yeah, I just pulled up the numbers courtesy of our friend Dom Campbell. AJ Woods had 16 on the bench press, most of all the three corners. I guess my other question is, how did Matt Gonsalves look? I know he sat out from the combine, right?
Yeah, he did.
So
He's still doesn't really feel like he's at 100%. He feel like his toe is still a little stiff. That was the injury that he suffered last year. But he was basically when I asked him, hey, did you feel like there was any chance that you wouldn't work out today? I mean, you said you're not feeling 100%, but he was like, no. I mean, this is basically his last opportunity to really show NFL teams anything. This is where he gets to put stuff, on tape. I mean, you think about it, he hasn't played football since
September.
September of last year. Like there is very limited tape on him. So I think he really not, I don't want to say desperation because I think even going into the combine, I mean, the fact that he got an NFL combine invite says a lot. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
people were talking about him as a day 2 pick, but he moved pretty well. I mean, especially when you think about, oh, this guy's only at 85 or 90%. Like he moved pretty well. And I think a little bit like AJ or Saint Simon, like the best stuff you see about him is going to be on film. Like he's going to show you what he's made of on film. He's not the type of guy that's going to thrive in environments like this, but in meetings and on film, like that's where a guy like Matt shows out. That all said, like I thought he put up some real decent numbers. I think he did well for himself, and if this is his last chance to really kind of show the public what he's got, I think he can feel really comfortable about that.
Yeah, for sure. And the good thing with Gonsalves, like his last season did get cut short, but it's not like he has a small amount of film out. Like he's been consistently playing for the last, you know, 2 years before
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
So it's not only that like he's gonna show up in the film, but like there is a lot of film on him. And there's a lot of film of him like getting better, and like you could
Right.
tell how much this line struggled when he went down. Says a lot about him as the level of player that he can be.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And he like I just his journey I think is kind of interesting. Like he comes from Long Island, like not he even said it himself today. He was like, "Oh, you from Long Island?"
I'm from Long Island, dude. When
Oh, well, he
he
was talking trash about Long Island football, so I
oh
hope
no,
that
we're
does.
horrible. We're terrible.
But yeah, he was like, "Yeah, Long Island football is not very good. Like, I'm really glad Pitt took a chance on me when they didn't really have to, and it blossomed into this great thing for both parties." So it was just funny to think about his journey like that because he also wasn't like when I think about, I think Matt's like first year, full year as a starter, it was mostly because Carter Warren went down with an injury too. Like
Hmm.
that's where he got a bunch of his first playing time. Like a lot of Matt's, opportunities kind of came by chance, like it wasn't like he was beating guys out, but once he got into those spots, everyone immediately recognized him as real solid.
Yeah, I'll go into a little tangent on Long Island football. It's very strange the fact that Long Island football is not very big, and even like New York City football is not that good when you compared to like other big cities.
Mhm.
New York City is the fact that like not a lot of schools have fields, and you have to like actually go to a certain high school to play football. Like Izzy's from Brooklyn, but he had to go play in Tottenville, which is all the way in Staten Island, because they have the biggest athletics complex in the city. There's another big school in Brooklyn that's like wins all the championships. But like Long Island, a lot of kids will not play football; they'll instead play soccer or lacrosse, which like does hurt like the quality of like just the amount of players you have. Um, but I do remember when he chose to go to Pitt, when he committed, my grandma clipped the article from the local newspaper and was like, just sent it to me I think I was a freshman at Pitt.
Mhm.
And then I bumped into him on the street and said I was from Long Island. And, like he dapped me up. Matt Gonzalez, very cool guy. Thank you for handing me that
Yes.
Miller Lite
Yes.
back in 2018. Um, any other notes from Pro Day or before we move into like spring football, which is really what I want to talk about here.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, Bub and MJ didn't do a whole lot, but those were guys who went to the combine. I think they felt like they really showed out there. Uh Other than that, not really. I mean, Christian Veyer, that he threw to Bub today, like he was threw to Bub, threw to Sibo, threw to Epps and Phil, because Phil also ran routes today. But he was, I mean, that is the perfect guy. Like, just like looks like an NFL quarterback when he's throwing on air, just throwing
Yeah,
regular routes. Like he throws a pretty ball. It looked awesome. I guess that was my biggest takeaway. Other than that,
I will say it's like Veyer was made to throw on air. He throws that really tight spiral, very fast pass.
Mm.
But when he throws, and this was what I noticed last year, and we'll see how it plays out this year. But he throws like either too low or too high. But when you're on air, it doesn't matter because the clip Pitt football posted today of like Epps making that crazy catch. Like
yeah,
he's made to like he should be the all-time like pro day quarterback.
yeah, dude, he could make a lot of money if he just said, look, sign me to a contract. I'll just come throw out your pro day and we'll make it work. Like it's yeah,
I reserve my right to change that opinion based on what I see.
yes,
But
yes.
so speaking of Veyer, jokes aside about all-time pro day quarterback, that leads us well into spring football, which is what we're here to talk about. Now, Steven, you've been to all the practices, and the number one question on pretty much any Pitt fan's mind has been how the quarterback's been looking.
Yeah, I think pretty good. I think the first day I was there, it was pretty clear. Like even throwing on air to these receivers and these running backs and these tight ends, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve. Things looked a little rough. A lot of balls hitting the turf. Just didn't look like their best day. But you can see progress moving forward. You can see them start to figure it out. Like obviously they're still growing pains. This is far from a finished product.
Mhm.
And I just the interesting thing I think I've gotten from talking to players and coaches, and JJ Laster, the new wide receivers coach, said this the first day we met him. Was that when they practice, they're more worried about getting the guys up to speed than they are about honing the fine details. Like they want to get a ton of reps in, and they want guys to get acclimated to how fast they're going to go before
Mhm.
they start to nitpick about, oh well, you need to break this route off a little bit sooner. You need to come back to the ball a little bit more. Your split needs to be tighter. Things like that. They want the guys to get used to the speed first, and I think you can see that a little bit. Not necessarily that guys are rushing, but that this they aren't getting to walk through it as slowly. They're not getting to move as slowly and learn the offense first before they kind of get their sea legs under. I think that's the coaches want them to get their legs under them before they really perfect the scheme per se, if that makes sense. So I think that has impacted how the quarterbacks have looked. That said, we've only heard good things about Nate Yarnell. It's a guy who I don't think he's going to necessarily wow you when he's throwing on air or anything like that. He's a guy who I think impresses you most with his moxie, his decision making,
Mhm.
things like that. I think the only thing that I would be concerned about, and Pat Narduzzi did mention this about the scrimmage, was that he wants his quarterbacks to rush a little bit less. I think he thinks that they are looking at one read too closely and kind of just go into the one read. He wants them to kind of stand in there a little bit more, take in their options, and just find the open guy instead of taking this one read that's a deep shot or something like that, or that's the big play. He wants them to settle in a little bit more. And I have to imagine that the more they rep this offense, the easier that'll get. I just think for right now, they're still kind of going through the growing pains of learning a new offense that's, fairly complicated, is fairly fast, and just not what these guys have run for the past 2 years. I mean, Frank Signetti's offense was anything but fast.
I was gonna say it does almost feel like they're doing it in reverse of what you'd normally do, which is very interesting to me because I played football in high school, and I mean, your typical install is to learn all the plays and then get you up to like running them at speed. And with the emphasis on speed and time between reps in this offense, I do think it's actually very smart to kind of do it in reverse, where the main thing you got to, excuse me, that tastes like fajitas. No, the main thing you got to get used to is the speed of play, and how often you're repping this offense is kind of close to the Tennessee offense in a way. It's more complex with the reads and not being sort of a one read offense, but you can learn how to read like the passing plays easier than you can learn how to play fast.
Yeah. I kind of agree.
So yeah. And then you mentioned Nate, who went into camp as QB1. Now, from what I've seen from your reporting, it's more or less a 2.5 to 3 man quarterback battle. Obviously he went in as QB1, but there was going to be a formal battle with a new offense coming in. It's between Nate, as we mentioned, Christian, who we talked about earlier, and then possibly maybe Eli Holstein as option 3.
Yeah, I think possibly. Holstein is a real long shot. I'd even say Veyer. Like I don't know. Like it is a competition, but I think it's more along the lines of kind of Nate's job to lose. Like Nate would have to look real bad in this offense in order for him to get unseated in that way. Like at the same time, Veyer would have to look really good, but I do think it's not a completely closed book. The coaches clearly like Nate. They liked what Nate put on film last year. I also think there's something to be said for the fact that Veyer had to face like all the best teams on Pitt's schedule. Like they had to outside. I mean, West Virginia ended up being pretty good, but like Veyer had to take his first start against a top 15 Louisville team. His first action was at halftime against a North Carolina team that's pretty good. I guess their defense not very good, but still, it's North Carolina. He had to play Notre Dame on the road as well, and then I think he also started that Florida State game. So
that was his last one, I think. No, 'cause he started in Yankee Stadium as well.
Yeah, he did. So it was tough sledding for Christian. And I think the coaches know that. Like he didn't exactly bathe himself in glory, but he also didn't have the best situation around him. Whereas Nate Yarnell gets to play Duke and Boston College. No disrespect to them; those are both bowl teams, but that's not Notre Dame. That's not Florida State. That's not Louisville. So I don't think it's exactly an open competition, but Nate can't let himself slip, if that makes sense. He's really got to show command of this offense. He's really got to showcase that good decision making that I talked about. When they get to go live, or when they get to go something closely resembling live, I think like Nate can really show a lot by using his legs. I'd say outside of Holstein, he's probably the best runner of those 3 quarterbacks that we, second best runner, I guess, of those 3 that we talked about. But I don't think it's I don't think Christian is, completely. I'd say Holstein is very far away from possibly competing for a starting job. Christian's a lot closer, but really it comes down to, as long as Nate doesn't completely implode during spring ball or fall camp, he will be your week 1 starter, I'd say.
That kind of tracks with what I've seen, at least. Like I'm no film quarterback expert, but like from what I saw from Yarnell, I think his best trait that's going to transfer this offense is the way he anticipates throws. I think he did that the best of the 3 quarterbacks we saw last year. He also really improved his footwork and how he uses hips in throwing compared to what he put on, the 19 throws he had on tape, but against Western Michigan in his sophomore year. And then Holstein, at least from like the limited stuff you can see from like the Bama spring game on YouTube and his high school tape, he does have a little bit of a wonky throwing motion I think needs to be ironed out. But also disclaimer, not a not a quarterback guru.
Yeah, I heard about Holstein's hitch. I can't tell you I watched a ton of film on him from Bama or the spring game, but I can tell you watching him throw at practices, I don't really see much of a hitch, to be quite honest with you. It's like, oh, do you have is it not really a hitch? That's how it's been
Yeah,
described to me.
from what I saw, and maybe I'm not looking at the right thing, but it wasn't a hitch, but it was more of what I saw from Nate early in his career, where basically when Eli throws on the tape that's out there, which is obviously very limited, and it's his freshman spring Bama game. All of the power from his throws is coming upper body torso. It's all shoulders, it's all torso. None of it's hips.
Mhm.
And so when you're generating, from what I know limitedly, when you're generating all your power up here, it leads to more wobblers and more errant throws, just because you don't have the base under you the whole time. You're almost twisting away from it when you're not leading through with your hips and following through with the arm, more or less. It's
Yeah, I mean
kind
that.
of like a shot put in that way.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like baseball to me. I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
or a little
exactly.
bit like basketball too. If you're not engaging your lower half, you're counting on your upper half to just push the ball, throw the ball. It's it's all arm, and that just makes you less accurate because you're trying to put all your weight behind. If you don't engage your lower half, you don't engage your strength down there. You're getting all your power from the wrong place. You can use your power from your lower half and then guide the ball more with your upper half and with your arm if you're engaging all parts of your body. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, 100%. Um, so next up, this is a question from our friend Dom. To you, what transfers are standing out in the spring practice? We've obviously got the wide receiver and the running back from WCU that followed Bell up here, but are they standing out? Are there any other guys who are pretty much making themselves known as soon as they got here?
Yeah, I'd say Raphael Williams. There are actually two Western Carolina guys.
Right.
So Raphael Williams was Western Carolina, then San Diego State, then Pitt. CJ Lee was the Western Carolina straight to Pitt. Williams has been the one I think who stood out. We heard he scored a couple times in the scrimmage, had some nice over the shoulders catches, showing some athleticism. Um, him and Lee, it's obviously the size that you're worried about. They know
Mhm.
the system and they've thrived in it, but this is the ACC. This isn't, the FCS. Obviously, that's a concern. Um, you know, if you trust the coaches, then he'll be fine. I expect he'll put on a bunch of weight this offseason. I would almost guarantee that they're going to make him do that. I don't have my roster in front of me, but I think that he's under 180 pounds. So, that's going to have to change. But we've heard so far that he's doing what he needs to do. Catching passes, getting open, making yards after the catch, and things like that. Um, I'd say also Desmond Reed has been getting some reps with the first team. I think that is mostly because they're going to burn through a lot of bodies. Just with the pace and everything, they're getting a
Right.
bunch of guys ready. But I think they've been pretty happy with what he's done. I think the interesting one is we've heard about Lyndon Cooper, offensive lineman, came from NC State. I thought he was honestly a candidate to start right away, or at least kind of be on the two deep as a guard, especially because Ryan Jacoby's not practicing this spring. He's still rehabbing that injury. Narduzzi told us the other day that he's just not going to practice during the spring. It's really not worth it for him at this point. So I figured Cooper would be, up with that first team all the time. He's pretty versatile. He's played some center, he's played both guard spots, but you haven't seen much of him. It's been mostly, you only get limited looks at it. But Jason Collier Jr. has been kind of that top guy again. Maybe it's just because he's a returner. Yeah, I know that look. Uh, but I have to assume those guys that spot is just kind of a placeholder right now because
Mhm.
Jacoby's not there. But I was a little surprised that they aren't even really testing out Cooper that much. And the other guy that I thought was on the defensive side of the ball that I thought was I'll actually tell you. I mean, on the defensive side of the ball, Nate Matlick, defensive end from Kansas State, probably on track to be a starter right now. I would say, just the way people have been talking about him. I think he's got long arms. He's a proven productive player at the Power 5 level. And that was in a system that really didn't play to his strengths at all. So, I think playing in Pitt's system, which just works a little bit better for him. He'll be able to be a lot more productive, so I like him. Um, I'm still kind of holding out hope for Taman Lynham, the corner from Nebraska. Limited action at Nebraska, but pretty productive when he was on the field. I like him. He's got a big frame, long arms. I'm a bit of a sucker for that, but I kind of expected to hear a little bit more about him, but it doesn't seem like he's really shooting up the cornerback depth chart. So I'd say Raphael Williams, Des Reed, Nate Matlick, those are the guys that you should really be looking out for. Those are the guys who are standing out the most as far as transfers go.
You mentioned the cornerback room, which I think of all the position groups is going to be the most interesting to watch over the offseason. Just because, like you mentioned earlier, our 3 starting corners no longer play for this team. They all are off to the NFL now, and that battle between, I've got my guest depth chart up, but I mean, Rashad Battle, at least is one of the most experienced on the team. You have Lynham coming in from Nebraska. Uh, Maybe you've got Javante Royal, Crumpley, Noah Bigelow, Rylan Gandy. Like, there are a lot of names to look out for, and it's just going to be interesting to see who that top 3 emerges as. It's almost similar to the safeties last year, where there was a lot of, it looked a little rough the first 4 weeks, and then really those 3 came on super well towards the end of the season, being McMillan, O'Brien, and McIntyre. But like, to me, that's the most interesting position battle to see take place.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's most interesting because I don't know if it concerns me, but it's like a pretty
Oh no, it
critical
concerns me.
part. Yeah, I mean, like it probably should. I mean, you've got a bunch of guys who have not started at all. You've barely got guy. I mean, Rashad Battle is the closest thing to an experienced guy that you have on the team, and even his game reps in the actual defense are limited. We've heard great things about Rylan Gandy. Like I'm penciling him in as a starter.
Was he the really big special teams guy last year? Or was that Bigelow? I don't
No,
remember.
I can't remember. I think it was one of the linebackers, like Rasheem Biles. I think had 2 blocked punts.
Biles, that's who it was.
Yep. So like Gandy, I think we're counting as kind of a starter right now. But again, like you don't really know what he looks like. Like we have no idea. We've never actually really seen him play meaningful snaps. And outside of that, I think you're right. Like you've just got kind of a hodgepodge of young guys that you don't really know anything about. Like I like Lynham, but obviously we haven't heard or seen much of him. We've heard good things. I think Battle is probably, if you had to put a gun to my head and tell me and make me tell you who was going to start opposite Gandy opening week, like I'd put my money on Rashad Battle. He's had a couple picks in live action this spring. Like we've heard some decent things, but I think they're looking for one of those younger guys, like a Crumpley, a Noah Bigelow, maybe even a Lynham. But I think it kind of comes down to Crumpley, Bigelow, and Battle. Like those are the guys competing for that last corner spot. But yeah, it's pretty concerning given how often these guys have to play on islands.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like if they were playing Tennessee this year, Lord help them. But I think the fact that they get kind of eased into things, I think it's Kent State, maybe Youngstown State, and then it's Cincinnati. I'm pretty sure.
But it's Kent, Cincinnati, Dub V, and then Youngstown before a bye.
Yeah. So Garrett Green is really the best quarterback that you're going to face. So at least that's a little bit of a hopeful note. But I do think, I think you're a little right. Like it's going to be a little rough to start, even if these guys do find their footing. It's just tough for anyone, I think, to adjust to this defense. It's tough for anyone, especially as a corner. And I would temper expectations early, is how I would put it. It's a tall task for anyone, especially guys who just haven't played before.
Yeah, and like you said, like Battle is the most tenured in the cornerback room. He's in his 5th year now. Also, like one thing to note about Battle is that he's an unusually tall cornerback for Pat Narduzzi. He's the only corner on the roster over 6'2". Sorry, Javante Royal is also over 6'2", but of the guys we're looking at to maybe fill in that starting role, it's probably Battle. And that honestly is something to look out for, because at least one thing I have reservations about with Pat Narduzzi, how he recruits corners, is obviously the technique that him, Bates, and Collins all instilling them is great, and you can see it because there's so many Pitt D-backs in the NFL. But they recruit these smaller guys, and the ACC has some big fucking receivers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad we don't get Florida State. I'm not sure if Johnny Wilson's returning, but having that 6'7" giant go up against you is not very fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, part
while
of
we're-
the reason that Florida State game I think was like 0-0 for most of the first half was because I don't think Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson played in that game. Like I think they were hurt.
one or the other, I think I remember something about that.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. Like I didn't hear a word about it before in the lead up to the game, and then I walked down on the field and I'm taking a lap before the game starts, and I'm like, I do not see Keon Coleman and I do not see Johnny Wilson, and what they're 6'4" and 6'7". Like I wouldn't miss them. Like they
Yeah.
and I get up to the press box. I'm like, did anyone see Johnny Wilson or Keon Coleman on the field? And everyone's like, no. And then we see some report from like a Florida State guy that they're out for the game. It was, but yeah, that yeah. And I mean, Clemson always has those big rangy, like, they can't always catch passes, but they're big receivers. Yeah. So it's, I would agree. I mean, he always seems to find guys who are like Marquez Williams told us today. He's like, yeah, I'm 5'8", but I play like I'm 6'3". I was like, sure, yeah, that he likes to have,
does.
he likes to have guys who have a little bit of dog in him. But I think you can get someone who's also 6 foot and has a dog in them. Like I don't know why we can't do that.
Well, at least I've got my track up here. There are no D-backs on the roster listed under 6 foot.
All right,
Let's say listed.
we can work with that.
because some of them are smudged probably, but yeah, I will say Marcus Williams, huge fan just because one, generational trash talker, and two, he was actually so good at 5'8" that teams didn't throw at him. So love that guy. While you were talking though, I do think another like position group to watch is the interior defensive line, because as of right now, at least what I'm tracking, I think the top two guys are Elliot Donald and Sean Fitzsimmons. And then it's Isaiah Neal and Nick James, who are both pretty much brand new.
Yeah. I mean, I'd throw Nikai Johnson in there. Like he's put on a bunch
he's
of
moving
weight.
inside for sure.
Yes. Which I didn't. Apparently, he played like 6 snaps at D tackle against Duke, which I missed. I don't know. I think there was a basketball game the night before, and that was like a noon game, and I think it was one of those where I was up till like 3 a.m. writing about stuff. But so I wasn't really paying very close attention to the interior defensive line rotations. But Nikai started to make that move last year. He's kind of fully made that move this year. I think he's up to 275 now. Probably going to put on some more weight before the season starts. They really like him. Like he's just an explosive athlete, and they think if they can move him inside where he, I don't want to make him sound stupid because I don't think that's what it is. But the coaches said we got to put him in a position to think a little bit less and just use that athleticism more. So I think that's what they're hoping to get out of him there. Elliot Donald, to me, it's not now or never, but we haven't heard a peep about him. And especially in this year, like in this defensive line room, like that's a little bit of a tough look. Like, just like if you can't break out here, like there are plenty of opportunities here, and if you were going to break out, this would be the year to do it. But yeah, those other two guys, Nick James to a lesser extent, but Sean Fitzsimmons, I'm really excited about Sean Fitzsimmons. I think he can be really good. I think like kind of built like no one's Kalijah Kancey, but he's built kind of in that same mold. Little shorter, but explosive athlete, real quick hands. Was limited by injuries last year. Like it was basically every game I was on Sean Fitzsimmons watch, I was like, oh, he's dressed this time. Oh, is he actually going to warm up? Oh, he warmed up this time, but is he actually going to play? It was kind of a slow process with him, and he just kind of never ended up. I don't know if he really played a game over the second half of the season. I don't know if they just shut him down. Maybe he got a few snaps here or there, but I really am eager to see what he looks like with a full year under his belt. Heard good things about Nick James, another just like blue chip recruit who got lost in the shuffle at Indiana, which does worry you a little bit sometimes when a 4-star has to transfer out after their freshman season. I think that worries you a little bit.
They did fire their coach though. That's one
that
thing
is
to keep
true.
in mind.
That is true. I forgot about that. So, Nick James, we've heard a little bit about him. Haven't noticed him a ton in practices, but Um, I'd say Fitzsimmons, Nakai, and Nick James. Those are the guys that I'd probably put at the top of the depth chart or near the top of the depth chart as things stand right now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Sean Fitzsimmons because like I don't know what the best way to put it is, but like he just plays like angry. Like he always
Mhm.
is looking to take somebody's head off on that interior D line. And if he can give us that a full healthy year, that is like just a force to be reckoned with that wasn't present on last year's D line. Um, keeping with the defense, I think you mentioned and wrote about this, but you're super excited about the linebacker room, right?
Yeah, I am. I am. They have like,
Yep.
I mean, they can go at least like 6 deep. I think like they have that many guys that they can play.
Talk me through it.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with like Brandon George and Solomon DeShields. DeShields had like the best season of his career last year, and I think he's back for more. They put him at that. I think he plays star. No, he plays money. He plays money, and that's basically like an outside linebacker, like T.J. Watt.
Yeah.
Like, they're gonna let him blitz a ton. They're not gonna put him in coverage situations where he can just kind of get angry and run after the quarterback. Um, I think Brandon George is a thumper there at the middle linebacker spot. Real smart, experienced guy. A guy that they need there. And then Kyle Lewis seems like kind of that third starting linebacker back there. Doesn't really wow you with his size or anything like that, but another guy who just plays angry. I think he's real smart. I think he has good coverage skills. He can play on the outside. A really athletic guy. So I like him. And then down like in the next tier of things or next tier of players, you've got three. They're going to be sophomores by the time the season starts, but Rasheem Biles, Jordan Bass, and Braylon Lovelace, all members of that 2023 recruiting class that just looks better by the day. Quite
Yeah.
honestly, like it's pretty loaded when you look back on it, and that's just after one season with all these guys. But um, Lovelace, super smart, putting on some weight, a little more athletic. He's seeming like a little bit of a middle linebacker. I think they're actually going to try to rotate him in with George. Like I think Brandon George is good, not good enough, like not a Servassier Dennis level where you can't take him off the field. So I think they're
Right.
going to they're going to say to Lovelace like you're I don't know what the exact split will be, but it'll be like, it'll be closer to 70-30 or 75-25 snaps between George and Lovelace at that middle spot. And then Biles and Bass are just crazy athletes, like really good on the outside. Like you can kind of see it forming. Like it's those top three. It's Lewis, it's DeShields, and Brandon George in that first line, and then literally the future is right behind him, and it's all lined up. It's Bass, Lovelace, and Biles just right behind them, and you'll get Lewis for another year. He's another like they'll be deep for a while. That's the thing. It was really funny talking to. I think it was Pat Narduzzi during the spring last year. It might have been at the start of training camp. He was saying that Ryan Manolik, the linebackers coach, was like, I just need more bodies. Like I don't have anyone. Like I barely have enough people to actually play linebacker to like field the full linebacker position. He clearly got those guys in
Yeah.
his latest recruiting class. Like there are some really good players in there, and they're gonna be around for a while.
Yeah. And like Pitt is notorious as a program for never letting a freshman burn his red shirt. The fact that all three of those 2023 guys burned their red shirt says something about them. And like they weren't on the field that much last year, but when they were on the field, they were always making plays. And
Yeah.
like you said, DeShields had a fucking career year last year. Harder to say than you think. Um, but yeah, I mean, like Jordan Bass, Jordan Bass, crazy athletic.
Yeah.
He could play both sides of the ball if he wanted. And like there's like one play in my mind that stands out. He made like this shoestring tackle. I think it was against Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Saved a touchdown, but like I'm hyped for this room, 100%.
Yeah, and it's just like it's funny to think about like the beginning of Pat Narduzzi's tenure here, where he had like Matt Galambos and Mike Caprera. Like those are your starting. Those are like your starting line. Those are two of your starting linebackers. I forget who the third might have been. Was it like was it like Bam Bradley or something like that? But it was just you watch them and you're like you compare those guys to the 20 even the 2019 team or the 20 and then or the 2020 team and then obviously the 2021 and 22. It's like it is a completely different level, different caliber of athlete. um that is. This is no disrespect to Galambos and Caprera and Bam Bradley, like fine players. This is different, Like they have recruited a different level of athlete to Pitt in this linebacker room.
100%. I mean, like they just get faster every year. I think that's the one thing that pops out to me. We'll say going back to remembering guys, Quentin Virginis.
Oh yeah, dude, he was a dog. Dude. Oh, I was so pissed because I think he got hurt like before his last year, and it was like season-ending injury, and I was like, man.
I want to say he tore his ACL against like Rice or something, but he was having an absolute monster season. I went back and like looked up his YouTube highlights the other day. I was like, he should have been so good, man. Anyway, sorry, that was we're going back to remembering guys. Oh, there's my cat. He's shaved. He had surgery. He looks like a total goofball.
Is he all right?
Oh yeah, he's fine. He ate a toy and got sick. Cat things.
Right. Sometimes you get bored. You gotta eat a toy.
Yeah, pretty much. Now let's kind of move into more of the questions we got. Bunch of our most loyal soldiers sent these in when I sent them out for questions. We've already kind of asked a couple or answered a couple from Dom. I do have. This is more like conceptual, not sort of spring ball related, but how do you think that Cade Bell's fast-paced system is going to like sort of mesh with an Narduzzi defense? Because I have some thoughts, but I'd like to hear yours first.
Yeah, I mean, so you take a fast off. Like this was the big thing in I think the Tennessee game 2 years ago, where at the beginning of that game, Pitt went up 10-0, and it was because they were winning on real early downs. Like they were putting Tennessee in real tough situations. On first and second, on second and third downs, and Tennessee was having to throw deep on third down, and they were getting 3 and outs, and it was just 25 seconds, 3 and out. They're off the field. Pitt has the ball. They're controlling and then it's Izzy, and I think Rodney was hurt for that game, but like Pitt was just laying on him. Like Pitt was just controlling the clock real well. Izzy ripped one big run, but like Tennessee looked awful in that game. Like at the beginning of that game, like they just completely stymied them, and it was because they weren't really able to get into a rhythm. And it wasn't until later in the game that Tennessee was kind of able to open things up for themselves. It's not hard to imagine that, like, that first Kent State game, Pitt comes out, they get, 2, 3, 4, 3 and outs on their first few possessions, just because first game, new system, and they're struggling to do things out. And time of possession midway through the second quarter is, 80% Kent State or something like that.
Yeah,
that is the thing. Like when you're running a fast offense like this, you have to execute in order to make it effective. That might sound obvious, but you don't give yourself a lot of chances to control the game. Like you have to score, because you're not going to be able to, lay on teams. You're not going to be able to control the clock, things like that. It puts your defense at a bit of a disadvantage if you're not executing. And I think the way that they're going to throw the ball is really going to affect that too. There's just not going to be a ton of rest. But I think I don't know. Part of me sees this defense as a little bit deeper than it was last year. Maybe not on the defensive line.
At least interior. There's a lot of depth on the edge.
Yeah. Yes, I would agree with that. There are a bunch of bodies that I think they'd feel comfortable throwing out there, even for 1 or 2 plays to give Dayon Hayes a rest or something like that. But like your cornerback room, like, is a little bit deeper if it's not super high end talent. Your safeties are obviously super deep. You got 3 guys that you can rotate through no problem back there, and then obviously we talked about the linebackers too. So to that extent, I'm not super worried about it. I mean, if the offense sucks and like it can't stay on the field, then we've got bigger problems. Like that would be that would basically be my response. Like I don't know. Like if it sucks, like the idea that the fast-paced offense keeps coming off the field really quickly, like that's secondary to the fact that they're not scoring.
Yeah, you can almost kind of look at that in the same way of last year's offense, where they weren't fast-paced, but they still can keep themselves on the field, and it's hurt the defense either way. I think the question of the offense being good or bad, like, is sort of outside this, right? Because the offense is bad, that's a whole different issue. And then obviously the defense is going to suffer from it. My thought is basically the two what you would say quote unquote worst Pat Narduzzi defenses were in years where they had like pretty exciting offenses, being 2016 and 2021 is when his defenses let up a lot of points, and that was because the offense was moving along. But I'm not too concerned about maybe the defense getting a little tired and giving up some more points, because if the offense is scoring points, Narduzzi's defense has pretty much shown itself to be able to make timely plays and like timely takeaways as well, timely sacks on third downs, making you get even like getting you into like third and forever. It doesn't. I'm not too concerned about the pace affecting the defense, because it will. It's just a fact. But the way they play defense, aiming at sacks and takeaways, is almost like that's your answer to being on the field more, is creating more havoc, creating more turnovers, and putting teams behind the sticks in my eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, I think these two sides of the ball will kind of mirror each other in a way. Like the offense is going to kind of be, I don't want to say high risk, high reward, but they're going to take their shots. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to throw the ball a ton. And the defense is going to take their shots too. Like they're going to blitz a ton. They're leaving guys out on islands. They're counting on other people making mistakes, and I feel like that's what both units are kind of be on. And so I think it's nice that there is kind of a stylistic, unity. There's like a stylistic unity there. Because I think that was the other thing. I think the other thing is though that like I think this defense is also just going to be better than it was last year. To be quite honest,
100%.
Like I don't think they're going to be getting laid on for 10 plus play drives because they can't stop the run. Like it was so odd, like how this team just couldn't stop the run last year. And I think that led to them staying on the field a lot longer than they needed to. And I don't anticipate that being a problem this year. I don't think that's going to happen again. It's just last year was so out of the ordinary for an Narduzzi defense that I just can't imagine. Like until it becomes a trend, I'm not going to expect it to be a trend.
It was very weird. It was the first time I'd seen an Narduzzi defense, defensive line, like just get blown off the ball several times a game, and it really started with the interior. I mean, losing Kancey is going to do that to you. Obviously, losing I think 3 of your 4 top ends, pretty much everyone but Hayes left. There's a big learning curve. I think, quite frankly, they weren't putting some of their best players out at defensive end. Sean Fitzsimmons was hurt. The interior D line wasn't the biggest fan of last year. I just thought that they weren't playing well. And even though like we have a lot of new faces on the interior D line, like the faces at edge, at least with Hayes and Matlack, are going to at least shore up the front of the defense. And like you said, we've got 6 linebackers who can go out and play. That front 7, at least, fixing that up while you're easing these 3 new corners in, gives me a lot more hope that we're going to take a step back to the defense that we saw in 22.
Yeah. I kind of agree. Like, I don't know, your defensive line is a bit more of a question. I think obviously the interior more than the ends. But yeah, it's like they're much more athletic up front. Like who knows like how that actually translates onto the field, but they're not. I don't know. They just got pushed around up front so much last year, and I just don't think that'll happen again. Quite honestly,
for sure. Next, another conceptual question here. Does the combination of a young, raw quarterback room plus the lack of a dedicated quarterback coach, which I guess is true, it's Bell, worry you as much as me? This is from UCF Panther.
No, it does not. Because I get it. The room is somewhat young, and I guess you could call him raw. I don't like Nate Yarnell's a junior. Christian Vayer's a junior. If anything, I think the only thing that concerns me is just how long it takes them to catch up to the system. And I can see that it might take them a few games to like really see like, oh, this is how this looks when we're actually playing against a live defense that doesn't know what's coming. Like I could see there being some growing pains there. But I think Bell's a good quarterback coach. I mean, like I don't think it takes away from his job as quarterbacks coach to coach up the rest of the offense. And I mean, I don't know, like Mark Whipple was Kenny Pickett's quarterbacks coach.
Yeah.
It worked out just fine. I don't like, I think I understand the concern. I think I'd be more concerned about the idea that I don't know, maybe this offense is just not built for the ACC. Like I'm not worried about they won't. I'm not worried about the talent necessarily. Like I think there's enough talent there. I think they're getting coached up just fine. I think the only way that this doesn't really work this if this system just isn't built to be played against better athletes. I think that's my only concern. Like I don't. And I was talking to someone about this yesterday, about this today as I was walking out of pro day. Or maybe it was yesterday after practice, but I didn't think that Pitt's issue last year was that they didn't have enough talent. Like maybe that was a question at some positions, but like you just look at that room or you look at that team, and I'm like there were good players there.
Hmm.
There were good,
Especially in the receiver room.
yeah, receiver room. Like their running backs were good, but like the rotations were weird. They had a million different injuries on the offensive line. They weren't able to really unleash Kenny Johnson until midway through the season, and then obviously the quarterback play being what it was, and the system being what it was, and all of that stuff. Like so no. If I guess I can boil this down to one word, I think Bell's proven that he can develop some decent quarterbacks. He can get the system to work. It doesn't worry me about the talent or how they're coached. I have different concerns about the offense.
I tend to agree with you, and like just to start off, I would agree with your characterization that the quarterback room isn't young. Yarnell in limited action and against other opponents has shown that he's taken leaps and bounds from his first stint against Western Michigan. Um, and the fact that he's not a dedicated QB coach, I don't think that really matters to me because there are some teams with dedicated QB coach that really don't do much. Especially with how he's installing the offense, I'd rather him be the quarterback's coach than just a dedicated OC. Like for this system to work, he needs to get in that quarterback's mind and like just have them understand what he's looking at on his play sheet. Um, in terms of you brought it up, maybe the offense isn't built to be in the ACC. I would disagree with that. I haven't done like a total I don't have all 22 on Western Carolina or anything, but from what I saw, it's not it's not like an air raid, right? It's not like the Leach air raid
Yeah,
where you're just running the same plays. His offense is more, I think, about it sounds so cliche, but it's like create an open space with the other routes receiver runs and then like putting safeties and linebackers in conflict to where I wouldn't say that's like a foreign system to ACC football. I think that's what all the smart offensive coaches are doing. Um, and given the fact that, these are guys who've played in college for 3 years, I'm really not too worried about the youngness of the QB room unless there's like a catastrophic event of illness that we have, Julian Duggar playing. No offense to him, but he's a freshman. That's when I start getting concerned.
yeah, yeah. And I want to be clear. I'm not like betting on this offense sucking. Like I honestly think that I'm optimistic about it. Like there was more
Yeah,
of a
same
like
here. Same here.
if this does fail, I can see it being because this offense that is supposed to create space just doesn't have it against better athletes or better coaches at the AC level are able to scheme against it better or coach guys up better. Like as optimistic as I am, I see the path to this not working out. But yeah, I agree. Like I think I'm overall optimistic, and my concerns are not tied to coaching roles or yeah. Like I also think like Yarnell, like you said, he made leaps and bounds. Like this is a guy who I think plays a little bit beyond his years. Like I think he has a
He plays
command.
smart.
Yeah, he has some instincts and he has command that are better than a guy who has 3 career starts to his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like obviously the competition was what it was, but even in 22, he had like one snap in the Sun Bowl and it was one throw to Jared Wayne where he fixed his hip thing between September and December, and then also threw it in a place where only Jared Wayne could get it. Shout out Jared Wayne, like just high on the sideline, and if he missed, which I think he did, that miss wasn't going to result in a turnover.
Hmm.
He's a super smart. He plays and throws the anticipation. You saw that last year with the long touchdown to Bub Means against Boston College. And for my money, he's got the best ball placement on the team.
Yeah.
Which in an offense like this, where you are finding the smallest gaps, the smallest indecision from the defensive players reacting to these route trees, it's about ball placement. It's not about arm strength. It's not about how deep you can throw, even though they are going to take their deep shots. This is not a dink and dunk offense. It's about where you put that ball. And if you are putting it in your receiver's hands where only he can get it and where he can take that ball and start running up the field.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
not only is this wide receiver room like supremely talented, like we didn't even talk about the receivers, but we talked about the transfers, but like Kyle Mumfield is an insane athlete that was misused for 2 years. Dejon Reynolds, we haven't seen like what he can fully be, but he was a blue chip recruit in Florida, and he did have some pretty impressive plays last year. Like you mentioned, Kenny Johnson is Kenny Johnson. He was criminally underrated as a recruit and showed that he can be a special player. And even like, I don't know, give me a Shaden Wabuko on a 9 route. Let's see what he can do with that burner speed.
Yeah, like in those freshmen too. I mean, Zion Fowler is a crazy athlete, dude. That guy just like plays like he is like wound like round up like a rubber band. Like he is just waiting to like burst open and explode. Like I'm excited about him. Excited about Lamar Seymour. They've talked up Izzy Polk a ton too. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's some dudes I think in this. I mean, like you just look at like the sheer number too. Like outside of those top three, which I'm high on all three of those guys. Like Dejon Reynolds is my guy. I'm like planting my flag for. Like I think he's gonna have a good season. I think he's a good player. And that's coming from a guy who thought he would be nothing when he came to Pitt. I was like, really, this is our big addition. Like this is our big third starter. But I was dead wrong about him. I think he can be a productive player. So yeah, like I said, like there's plenty of talent here. Like it's just if it all comes together, which I guess is obvious, but
Yeah, and we didn't even mention the elephant in the room, Gavin Bartholomew. Hey,
yeah,
you've got a mismatch.
Yeah.
You've got a mismatch against linebackers everywhere.
Right.
We're gonna use them this year.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just all about using guys in the right way. Like there aren't transcendent players like a Jordan Addison anywhere, but there are guys who are ACC level, who are plus players who could be all ACC guys if they're used in the right way. If coaches see their talents and say, all right, let's not use you as a blocker. Let's not use you as a DB. Let's actually throw to our good tight end when he's open. That might make a little bit of sense.
Yeah, and like I just think that I did watch a couple of Western Carolina games, and even though, like you mentioned, we don't have a transcendent talent in Addison, but like we've got enough guys to where they're gonna have to put attention everywhere, and someone's gonna get open.
Yeah.
And even thinking about Jordan Addison, like the wide receiver 2 on those teams was Jared Wayne.
T-Shirt Mack and Jared Wayne like had great year. I mean, maybe not Jared Wayne to a lesser. I think that was kind of before he really broke out, but like even Shockey Jacques Louis had a decent year. But you had two tight ends who were catching a bunch of touchdowns. Like it wasn't just Krull, who I think had maybe 8 touchdowns that year, but like there were opportunities for everyone over there.
Yeah. Yeah, and like these guys, like no disrespect to them, but these guys are better players and better athletes than Shockey, Taysier, not Jared Wayne. Never gonna.
We will never say a bad word about Jared Wayne. That's my
never,
guy.
That's this is the world's #1 Jared Wayne podcast right here. That's Gridiron Air Canada we're talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right. And then one final football question for you. Is Narduzzi on the hot seat this year?
No, not even close. I shouldn't say not even close. Like if he wins 3 games again, yeah, he'll be on the hot seat. But like until that happens, and I would be genuinely stunned if that happens. Yeah, I don't think Narduzzi's on the hot seat. I don't think he's particularly close. Like this guy has built up too much. Like I don't know. I get it. The 8-win seasons get kind of boring after a while, but like 8 wins is a lot of wins, man. Like you're winning 2/3 of your games. This is Pitt football we're talking about. Like let's not get
Yeah.
greedy after an ACC championship year. That was lightning in a bottle. And then like the year afterwards, like that was a bitter year. People hated that year, like the 2022 season. And then you look up and they've won 9 games and they're ranked in the final poll of the year and they win this crazy bowl game and like now Narduzzi I think you'd really, no, Narduzzi's not on the hot seat. I think you'd be kind of crazy to even consider that at this point. We'll talk at the end of the year, but I really,
Yeah,
don't think
yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna- I don't really don't think we're gonna get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, so one, I agree he's not on the hot seat, but also don't get me talking about 2022. I'll get wound up and do another fucking hour, hour straight talking about 22 and how it was a wasted opportunity with that team. But I do agree that like this was only Narduzzi's second losing season in 8 years. Every other year, he's won more than 6 games. Now he's not like he's just 6-6 coach. He's
Yeah.
not. He's not. He's not. Fuck. Who was the guy before Jeff Hafley at Boston College? His name is escaping me.
Steve Adazio.
He's not Steve
Guys get
Adazio. He's not.
booze.
Yeah. He's not the other. He's not Daz. He's
Yeah.
Dooz.
Yeah.
He's not going 6-6. He's raised the floor in this program significantly, even if you made a bad hire in 22 with the offense. Also, I don't think they're going to win 3 games again this year. The schedule is fairly kind. They have a pretty easy, like, they can ease into the schedule a little bit. Like, they've got Cincinnati. I don't know who the fuck their quarterback is. I have to actually look it up, but
I don't know who anyone in Cincinnati is this year. Because didn't they change? They lost their coach too, didn't? No, Satterfield's still there.
no, Satterfield's still there.
That was
They've
his
still got Dante Corleone, the really good D tackle.
Really?
They
He
still
didn't
got
go to
him,
the
but
NFL?
no, he came back.
Damn, it's crazy.
Yeah, but like Garrett Green is the best quarterback in that first month, and while he is like mobile and can throw a little bit, he had a sub 60% completion rate last year, which kind of raises some eyes. But also like I think it's just we're gonna regress to not being 3-9. If they go 3-9 again, yeah, sure, there's some questions, but the main factor for me is that it's a buyout thing. Pat Narduzzi's not on the hot seat until Pitt can pay his buyout. Like, because the university is like not technically public, we don't know the number, but it's fairly absurdly high. As of right now, he's on contract through 2030,
Right.
and he's owed probably something like 80% of his remaining buyout. So they're not going to do it. Like
Right.
I've been trying to say this for a while.
You can kind of do the math from there. I mean, if he signed through 2030, that's 6 more seasons. Like theoretically, if you fired him right now, he's making I think like $5 million right now. I want to say a little more than that.
I think he's closer to 6. I want to say.
Yeah, like just because he's like been here forever. And so if you just like do the math from there, you multiply $6 million times, or let's call it 5.5 or whatever times 6 years. You assume there's a little bit of a modest increase over those years. You maybe have him up to like $7 million by the end of that contract. Like people are like John Calipari's $33 million but contract buyout was too much for Kentucky basketball. You
Yeah.
can't. Pitt's not paying that for Pat Narduzzi. That's like,
Also, like you do the math, and Pat Narduzzi's buyout number is somewhere in that range,
Yeah.
using
Yeah.
like a generous, like you pay him out 80% of his contract.
Yeah.
Like firing Jimbo Fisher has done terrible things to the
to our
sports fan
society, to our society, man.
brain, to our society.
Hiring Jimbo Fisher did bad things to our society. Firing him did.
I'll also agree with that.
Yeah.
I'll also agree with that. He should him and Nick Saban should get a TV show just talking in their crazy ass accent.
Don't they like
Their
hate
West
each
Virginia-
other? Don't they like really fucking hate each other?
They used to be boys, but I think there's some beef from when they were in the same division.
Yeah.
I don't know if they hate each other, but there's definitely some beef because fucking Jimbo stole all the good recruits and then did fucking nothing with them.
Oh, that was the
Like-
funniest. I'm gonna miss it because making jokes about Texas A&M was so funny, and Mike Elko is a good coach, and they're gonna be good again. It's gonna be kind of annoying.
I wonder how he's going to deal with those boosters. I will say, when you talk about Jimbo stealing all those recruits, that is, I think, a butterfly effect moment for Michigan winning the championship this past season,
Mhm.
because he took away D-line recruits from Ohio State, Alabama, who they beat,
Mhm.
Texas, who lost in the semifinals, Georgia, who ended up not making the playoff, Clemson, who had another down year. Like, everything has. If you hate Michigan, you should hate Jimbo Fisher too. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like it's like a butterfly effect, but he just tipped the scale so hard, like that it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You put all that oil money on the scale, all of a sudden, Michigan's winning championships in the 21st century. Fuck. I don't think I have anything else on football, unless you have like some basketball thoughts you want to get out after the season.
Not really. I mean, if you want to talk basketball, I can, but it's up to you. It's your show.
Um,
I mean, I could talk about like. I mean, there's like not. It's like, oh, are they going to keep Bub? Like, there are a couple of transfers that they're looking at, but like that's really it.
yeah, because like, there's not too much in terms of like I don't think it's even worth it talking about like will they keep Bub, won't they? Just because it's gonna happen one or the other. I'm optimistic that it will, but
I mean, it like literally doesn't
um,
matter until the NBA season ends. Like, they're not gonna know. Like, until they start the draft stuff. Like, because I mean, Capel said it.
yeah,
I had kind of assumed it, but he was like, our only competition for Bub is gonna be the NBA. Like, he's not gonna transfer.
yeah, for sure. And
Um,
he said he's gonna come. He said he's planning on coming back. Hope he will because that would be a very dangerous team.
mhm.
I mean, I guess in terms of basketball, how I think what I see is that their portal strategy is sort of coming together, at least for replacing Hinson. They're looking at players who just have that 3-point ability.
Mhm.
Um, I am curious though as to what their plan is down low with both Fede and Jeffress in the portal. You would know better than me because you do a lot of reporting on who they've contacted, but I'm not sure if they're just very confident with Conte and
Guillermo.
who's the recruit?
Oh,
What was that?
it's like
Yes,
Ndie or something like
Ndiaye.
that. Ndiaye, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. I'm not sure if they're like just confident with those guys or if they're like have they contacted like any big men in the portal? Because I think that's the key.
I don't think they have, but I I haven't seen them. I haven't seen reports that they've contacted any like big men as far as that's concerned. I think the interesting thing is like one of the first guys they contacted, like I think he's like McKeel Brown Jones or Jones Brown, something like that. He's like kind of a big, but like he might be 6'9" or something like that. I don't know. He's got a little bit of big to him. Like, he's definitely a 4. Um, but like maybe they're just planning on going small. I don't know. I would also expect like they knew Hinson was gone. They knew they had to replace him. So like as soon as the season ended, before the season ended. So I think they had like guys in mind as soon as the portal opened, and that's why you saw a rush of contacting those 4s who can score and have some size and shoot the 3 well. Um, there might just be like a radio delay on. Okay, Fetty. When did Fetty enter? Oh, Fetty entered the transfer portal while I was at the March Madness games in Pittsburgh. I was watching. What was that guy's name? Jack Golke or something, like hit 1,000,000 threes on Kentucky. And then I get like a notification. I check Twitter or something, and it's Fetty Federico is in the transfer portal. Uh, so I think there just might be like a little bit of a delay. Like I would honestly expect that within the next couple days, maybe over the weekend, we'd start seeing like some reports about them contacting certain centers. Like I think they need one. Like I don't think you should go into next year super confident that Conte and this Omdi kid who is also like 6'9", I'll say that.
Yeah,
Like I haven't watched a ton of like tape on him or but I assume he's gonna be fit better as a 4. Like I think anytime I don't know, just like watching the ACC this year, like they had a million great centers and they were all like 7-footers. So
yeah.
I'm not walking into a season with a 6'9" backup center, freshman or otherwise. And because I also think that Guillermo is going to transition to play a little bit more 4 this year. I feel like that's where he fits best. So I think you need one. You need a true 5.
Yeah, that's also what I was thinking too, because obviously the Twins have been playing out of position for the last 2 years, and with what I think should be there, I know they contacted the big man from Charlotte who went to Iowa State. I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Mhm.
He would have been really good.
Yeah.
But like I think I'm kind of seeing him together where like they're like, okay, Diaz Grams, you can finally go play the 4 and not worry about guarding Armando Bacot. You can actually like shoot threes with other 4s on you, and like play a little bit, not play down low as much. But yeah, I the things to watch are just like the two things that they need. It's the big man and it's the 3-point. I don't know. I floated this idea around with Kenton Mason is that the 3-point shooting, while you want to bring in someone who like can shoot at the Blake Hinton clip, with theoretically Bub, Jalen, Ish, Zach, and the twins coming back, who all 7 of those guys can shoot threes. That's I know they put a big focus on it, but I'm no coach, but it almost seems like that should be secondary to try and like lock down a true big man for ACC play.
Like I don't thinking how to word this right. Like I don't think you're wrong. Like I don't think you're wrong to think that way. Like there's a world where they get basically a role player to fill that 4 spot or that those minutes that Blake played. Like they don't need a Blake type player to be good next year. Like assuming, and this is all assuming, I think that you get all 3 of those. Like I don't think Lowe and Leggett are going anywhere. It's really Bub. I think the one that you got to hang on to.
For sure.
But assuming all 3 of those guys come back, I think you can get away with recruiting a role player. A guy he's got to shoot well. Like he's got to shoot threes. Like that's the inflection point from Capel's first 4 years to the last 2 is he had guys who can actually shoot. Like even the guys who were supposed to be able to shoot, like, do you remember what was his name? Ryan Murphy?
Yeah.
Or even Ithiel Horton, like, they were supposed to when these guys got there, they were like, "Oh, we got the best shooter out of the portal. This guy is like lights out from deep." And they get there, and it's partially because of the lack of the talent, like the overall offensive talent of this team. But like, none of these guys actually shot that well when they got here, especially from deep. Like, finally found some actual shooters. But I think you can get away with, assuming all 3 of those guards take steps forward. Like, let them carry the scoring load, find a guy who can rebound, knock down the open 3, play really good defense, has some defensive versatility. You can get away with that. Like, ideally, you'd love to find a Blake Hinton replacement, but that's going to be hard to do. So I wouldn't tie yourself to that. Like if you get a 4 who can shoot and play some defense and you get the right big man, like that's pretty winning formula too, I think.
I was going to say, like, you almost kind of want to find that, not Jack Golke, but the Jack Golke role is like all these teams like that go deep in March, at least I might be biased, but like they've just got some guy who can come off the bench and just knock one down just when your team needs something. And like you said, like Blake, it's not like when Izzy leaves after 2022 and he was the load-bearing beam and the whole house falls down because no one else can make a big play. You've got 4, 5, 6 guys who can make a big play. I think you're right that you're just like, you can settle for a role player, or even that guy might be on the team already, but like, always want to have more guys. Injury concerns are always something like that. But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying there. Anyway, that's all we got for this week. Steven, thanks so much for coming on. I learned a ton about spring football. Like I wouldn't have. Great information source. I think it was a lot of fun having you on. I'd love to have you back on in the future. And right now, I'm going to give you time to plug anything you got to.
Yeah, I'd love to come back on. Hopefully my boy Kenton is here the next time I'm able to come back on. But yeah, you can find all my writing at si.com/college/Pittsburgh. Find me on YouTube, just Inside the Panthers on YouTube. I also do record a Steelers podcast with my boss Noah Strackbine called All Steelers Talk. Find us anywhere podcasts are, Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and then on YouTube as well. And then I write a little bit for our Steelers site. That's allsteelers.com. So I'm always all over there. So make sure you check me out there.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow him on Twitter at Stephen E. Tom. Great coverage, funny tweets. If you like the show, follow him, then follow us at Simplify Pod. Our next show is probably going to be after the spring game. So yeah, we'll see you next time.
Hail the Pit.